Okay, hello and welcome back to M2C. So tonight it's going to be the third part in our build video. We're going to be taking apart the front section and putting it onto this one. So we've already done the rear section, the centre section with the motor mount, and all the chassis is ready to go. So time to get on with the front section. What we're going to do then, take this off as a whole unit, swap out the hinge pin holders, swap out the steering rack, ready with the M2C one, before putting it back on the car, all ready to go. Okay, so first things first, let's take off the steering arm here. Okay, that's now off, ready to come off as one piece. Okay, so now we'll just take off these 8 screws and get it all off as one piece. So now we're going to do the hinge pin holders. Come out with these two first of all. Okay, so now we're going to come across and take this steering rack out. Take this out, you've got to take this rear hinge pin section off here. So you've got 3 screws at the top, 2 screws from the front. Okay, as they come out, don't lose your 2 nuts from behind. Okay, so now you've got to get these 2 screws out of here to take off your links. To do that, you're going to need to hold underneath with a pair of pliers. Once you've got them out, work these off, and there's your old rack. Okay, so the easiest way to do this then is take it out of the packet and just lay it there the same way as you got the other one. The other one's got a couple of washers, shims on the top there, so don't lose them. And take these screws apart here. So you need the screw out of there, and then in the top here is your bearing. Pop that out. Okay, so when you've got the bearing out the top, get the bearing out the bottom, just use a little driver just to push through and just slowly work your way around. Be careful taking these bearings out, you don't want to damage them. There we go, popped out. Now, bearing through from the bottom, make sure it's pushed down. Bearing in at the top, make sure it's pushed down. Okay, so that's now ready to go back on. Okay, a little tiny dab of Loctite, because it's going to go into aluminium, not much, just enough. Using the blue Loctite for that. And then screw on. Make sure as you screw this on, you've got all your bearings into position. If they have come out, just slowly work your way in, and they'll wiggle in. Hold it tight, screw it up. There we go, that's the first side done. Now exactly the same for the second side. Okay, so that's now ready to go back on. So it's important to mention you don't need to use your 2 little washers, and inside here as well you don't need to use these little brass bushings. This has it all ready to go like this. Now before I put this back on, it's important that you grease both of your sliders there and just clean them up if they need it. A little bit of Loctite onto your screws that go through into your steering links. Okay, it's important when you've got them now down that you actually tighten up from the back here. So grab yourself a spanner. Okay, so 11mm spanner. Because they go threaded through the steering rack as well as through there, so make sure you come down and nip them up with a spanner. Okay, so now it's time to get these arms back in. Make sure you've got your drive shafts in there. Tuck your arm in. Hinge pin through. A little bit of a wiggle. And then before you tighten it up, remember to put your nut in the back. Okay, so now that's all built up, we've got the steering rack on, got the hinge pin holders on. Let's get this back onto the new chassis. So now we need to mount the rear section onto the chassis. Now, to do that, and just to help us, what I'm going to do is line up that drive shaft, get that drive shaft in. Just going to put a couple of wheels under it. And then put that support brace in, ready for when we turn it over. It just helps us keep that drive shaft in place. So now that's on, it's just going to help us when we turn it over. So when you turn it over, you want to make sure that this doesn't come away from the chassis, so that drive shaft doesn't pop out. Take those wheels out of the way. Keep hold of it with one hand, spin with the other, get it down and into place. Front two screw holes here, they're going into the aluminium hinge pins, so make sure you put a little bit of Loctite on them. Okay, so now we've got to this point, we can get the main brace through. Obviously I've got a V1 here. If you've got a V2, yours will be slightly different. Okay, so there's all the main running gear ready and going on this then. All of our front end, rear end, middle section all done. We've got our M2C hinge pin holders on here, steering rack, motor mount, chassis. Brace support at the front there. Everything's on, ready to go. So in the next video then we're going to put on all the sides, the battery trays, ESC, servo, etc. ready to get going and get out and bash. So the next video will be that. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and do any comments below, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.